but I want to thank you guys for coming. I was just mentioning to Sheldon that um, where we left off last time was talking about our fourth trail. We went over the first three, Kia'ani, Hanagani, Todechini. Then now we're going to talk about the Hashlishne trail, which Attila had emailed out prior to, so I'm not sure if you guys got to see that one. But I'm going to go ahead and share that part, and then afterwards I'll get into some of the trail renderings we've done based on the discussion we had last week, and then a lot of the visits that we had back in October and then early November with these trails. And then I think that'll leverage us in towards discussing how we could start approaching these individuals. Because as we had mentioned, our network is going to try to be collaborative with different agencies and layering itself with, this future trail that OID is going to do. We're going to have to figure out some way to connect with Dene College, etc. So if you guys don't have any questions or comments, I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to Attila's report. So as I mentioned, we had done this back in October. It was me, myself, Attila, Leonard, and Sheldon. Actually, I was able to attend. And this was the second trail we have done, which was the Mesa Trail. So if you look at our scouting report, we started over here near the basketball courts and parked right there. But we were talking about how OID really has this whole space right here designated where they wanted to do some type of trail development. So we're talking about somehow we could collaborate with them and linking up our system with theirs. And then we also saw that little disrepaired basketball courts. It was just kind of run down, overgrown with weeds. The chain link fence was falling down. So I know we already talked about further developing that into basketball courts, maybe that pump track that Attila was talking about. So that's really where the trail's starting up here. We really identified two different segments of it, kind of a low impact, easy loop at the top, north end, and then connecting towards a little bit more rigorous south end link. So if you wanted to continue on and not just do, a mile link up here, you could extend your workout and then go on this trail on the bottom. And then in doing so, we're recognizing different gateways. So there's access from the teacher housing to the north of the trail. And then we were discussing having that linkage up here with OID. And then the other one he had mentioned was down in the housing, the Shundeen housing, where Mary's from. And then there was an access point from down there. So those were our three identified locations for gateway. We did recognize that, there might be an opportunity long-term if we wanted to expand on this for a second phase, is down here utilizing this lower loop as well. And again, that would extend our original loop. So we had identified this. There was no gating on this side of the housing. So it was open. So there are concerns of dogs and whatnot, but this is definitely a possibility of expanding and increasing our loop. And then off to the side, we also recognize that possibly we could use or develop this area for biking, since there's a nice connection from this access point or from the middle point on the top loop down to the lower point. It could be some nice area to develop. If we were to do that, we'd have to coordinate with the churches down here because this is private property. And so that would be part of the collaboration. But you'll see that this area, it's really diverse. It has different functions, different uses. It has different views, as Sheldon had seen. So there's points right here of interest of contemplation, opportunities of signage, benches, etc. So I don't know if I just went over everything, but you'll see here's the access point from over by the basketball courts. We're recommending collaborating with ODY, even having opportunities for pocket parks along the way from the housing that was nearby. But you'll see that the lower blue loop was Class B trail, so we wanted to keep it below 8% grade with directional signage. There was talks about having motor vehicle barricades at these points because there was a lot of roads that come through. There might have to be one that has access to this water tower, but other than that, I think the idea is to keep it vehicle free. And then we're talking about those pocket parks I was mentioning. Um, at the south end by the family housing, you'll see right here, there's no actual entrance. So this is the teachage. We're talking about possibly collaborating and opening this up so people from this neighborhood could access the trail. But that was basically what we had talked about, a lot of rehabilitation on that top part, and then coordinating with Dene youth. Then there's also different views that you could see. This is overlooking the bike path. Over here in the corner, there was a hogan, an old ancient hogan. So there's an opportunity to do interpretive signage there. But it's really talking about the segment being about the access to that bike part on the lower end, um, and then connecting to the loop. So the lower loop, which is this light blue one, is what he's talking about here. This would again be natural, with just like slight alters for where runoff is, or for water erosion. So he's talking about things like gullies and road cuts. But basically, it's all well maintained. I think the only part for erosion is in this area down here, looking towards the housing, and then up in the area where main watershed goes through. But besides that, it's well maintained. They're talking about having, we're talking about interpretive signage and how do you interact learning within the trail. So this little segment from point A to point B, we're talking about maybe measuring and making that comparable to the long walk. So then you have little signages, this is how long it would have been if you were walking to Fort Sumner. This is probably where the Pecos River was, there'd be little signage like that for you to learn. So there's little interpretive things within it as well. And then they're talking about these viewpoints. This little signage contemplative area looks towards the old mining area. And then this one up at the bottom is looking towards that old fort or the defensive site that has stories of, even a prison break and then prisoners getting stuck on top of this mesa up here. So we wanted to capture those and tell those stories. So you'll see the pathways here. This is on that bend, just overlooking the bike path. This was another contemplative space looking towards that mine. And then just some bench locations. There's a little nook right here overlooking the housing that we found. But I want to be able to at least mock this up with what I'm going to show you guys next. But that was the report. I'm not sure if you guys had any questions on that.
No questions. Looks good.
Yeah, it's a cool trail. And like I said, it's a good opportunity as we're talking about health or, community interaction. There's opportunities up at the basketball courts to develop pump tracks for basketball. There's opportunities to venture into biking on that lower loop. I didn't mention it, but there was also another little lookout point right here. We're talking about maybe even doing a picnic table or something that's on the overlook. So like I said, there's a lot of different opportunities within that loop. So I should have the mock-ups for this by next week, maybe at Monday at the latest. But that's from Attila. The second thing I wanted to show and talk about was the other things we were talking about, which was the renderings of Kia'ani Trail, Hadnagani Trail, and then Totachini Trail. I didn't get to Kia'ani Trail, which was the linkage between NTU and Dene College, but I did get the other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and click down here on Hadnagani Trail or the BIA track. So as you can see from our discussions, it starts up here with the linkage, the connector from Education Trail. And then it connects over here with crosswalks on the roadway. But we were talking about, as I mentioned last time, having this inner loop right here on the inside of the road, maybe about a 2-foot, 3-foot space, which you could have interpretive signage on the inside of the track, learning about the old boarding school area. But really it's guiding you to the track right here. So I got different designations, A, B, C, etc. These are a lot of the things we had talked about, having a main gateway map at the beginning, having a park in the middle, talking about developing basketball courts in the dog park on the far end, and then having pocket parks in each corner representing Dene philosophy of education or growth from children to adolescents to adult to elderly. And then we're talking about improving the track surface and then closing it with the fence. So kind of going down, we're talking about that gateway signage, just keeping it in line with our themes and the colors. This would be the gateway kind of representing Tortuccini Trail. Ideally, there probably won't be one off to the side that included rules and regulations, like we were talking about certain hours being there, maybe having some trash receptacles. I didn't develop it too much, but again, this is just kind of the gateway to the track. Again, I'm really bad at rendering, so I apologize for this, but we're talking about cutting that track in about half and then filling one half of it with, a good type of track surfacing like at the high school. So we could have use for all ages, wheelchairs, etc. But then leaving the bottom portion unpaved because underneath it was the old BIA track. And so we wanted to preserve that somehow. But having that 8-foot wide surfacing on the outer edge, which would help with all weather use, and then having the lighting guiding it around so we could have it at all. This would be the low impact solar lighting. So we wouldn't be compromising your night views, but it would be keeping the place lit for safety purposes. We also talked about enclosing the area with the fencing since they did have all those fence posts. You can kind of see, actually I cut it off, but in the previous photo, you'd be able to see tire tracks in here. This was really to prevent people from driving in the area, but we were encouraging it to be enclosed with it's already, the fence posts that are already in place. We're talking about in the center of it all, here's the track, having some type of playground. I didn't want to get to develop this one out as much as I'd like to, but there'd be slides, there'd be swings, there'd be different things that, if you're a parent or you're a grandparent and you're walking the track, you'd be able to keep your eyes on your children on the inner side. So this is right in the middle of the track. And then we were talking about that basketball court, dog park in the far end of the area. So we have 2 little mocked up courts in one side of the space. This is the old softball field. So here's the outfield. And then the dog park with different features of like running up, jumping through hoops. I'm not sure what dog parks look like, but I just kind of threw those in there. But ideally it would be enclosed. There'd be places for doggy bags, etc. But this is just really making use of the area to the east of it. So basketball courts right here, dog park in this area. And then going to the outer edge, when you're talking about those pockets, I've got the Nitsa case pocket on the east end. Again, this is for the kids. Maybe it's a swing set, low, those things they swing on and it rotates in circles. Wanted to have a little space in one of the corners that were just for kids, where they could swing and etc. And then as you go around, this is the corner by the dog park, not the Nahata pocket, the south end, having something like one of these spider web climbing units, something again for maybe adolescents to climb up and interact. In another corner of that track, keep going down, something for maybe teens or young adults. You climb rope, do pull-ups, push-ups, whatever it might be. But the idea again is having little pockets of something. So maybe as you go around, you could interact and do different climbing or exercises within it. And then finally getting to the north corner and then having stuff for elders. So we're talking about, nobody really does want to be doing pull-ups in public. If you're doing that, you're at the gym. So if you do have this type of exercise equipment, maybe having it for elders with the balancing and, all those types of functions. So that was the old BIA track. Do you guys have any comments or questions on that?
No, I think it looks good. I like the half track, half paved. I think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I really like how you incorporated like the future of the, what kind of structures would go there. For example, you have the little playground area that is going to be designated for that little space. I like how you Photoshop and added these in, which makes it like really realistic, and I could definitely see something like that get built within that area. So good job on that. I think that was really good.
Yeah, I think the idea with this is, this is just something to start out with. But if we could take it towards UNM, I know Attila's been in contact with Moises Gonzalez and then some of those guys. But if, eventually they could maybe use this as a project to develop and like throw this in with their CAD and GIS and, kind of spend some time and attention to it. This is just the base, but at least it gives them that idea,
Yeah, looks good.
Cool. All right. Eventually, again, I haven't been able to do all these, but I want to be able to do the renderings of the inside trail. As I had mentioned, if we just didn't want to do this half-mile loop, then we would connect them to this inner trail. And so part of that will include having to do crosswalks and then doing the 2-foot barriers so it slows traffic, and then people are able to walk this inside trail right here. So that's going to be one of the next renderings, and I'll email out to everybody in addition to this one because I haven't sent this one out yet. But again, it's going to have the crosswalks. It's going to have the interpretive signage. So if we're learning about the boarding school area, ideally there'd be spacings within here where you'd learn about the old gym, or we'd learn about the old playground, or whatever it might be. So this is going to be something else that's further developed. And then again, that continues over here to the educational trail as well. The second trail, and this is the one that I had emailed out, I had made some slight alterations, but basically this is what you guys had received ahead of time. But it's starting with the TP trail from the old Christian Reformed Church, and then going the length of it all the way to TP's in this corner. But as we discovered on our field trip, when we were out there, there's a really intricate biking system that's already in place. So in addition to our trail, we want to eventually feature this biking developed area that really runs from the very end of it on the very tip of the mesa all the way towards where there's a blind spot that we identified. But I'll get into that soon. But we're talking about the parking area, making some interventions on the trail itself, and having space for picnic tables. That's really this first part of it. But then we got into some areas of interpretive signage. Again, that blind spot, again, identifying the biking. And then we had noticed that there's a need for benches, and then there's even some historic sites like Hogan. So if we were to follow that, again, it would be maintaining that same concept of keeping our signage consistent. This would be at the Christian Reformed Church parking lot. This one isn't developed yet, but ideally would, let you know this is for hikers, bikers. If we want to keep it motorized, we could put that in there, but we want to also, again, extend this like the BIA, where we have hours of operation, rules and regulations, things like that, liability waivers. But this would be the gateway. We're talking about using that Christian Reformed Church first, and then eventually, if we get more funds, develop out either towards the community or in that lower parking lot off to the side. And we were talking about section B. So when we were first coming up, we had noticed some trail problems. This whole section, I believe, is class 3, where we want to leave it natural except for certain interventions like this. So if you're first climbing TP, this is an unsustainable trail. There's a lot of water coming through. It's eroded. So we're talking about diverting it and then off to the side and then coming around. So there's a lot of opportunities. We're talking about this, maybe even installing a little bridge right here because there's still some water coming through. But there's a need for certain sections to have this type of intervention. Then we were talking about on that first loop, having a little small scale picnic table. So if you were maybe an elderly and didn't want to make the giant climb, if you've been on TP, there's a big incline right here that's over 30% grade. That if you just wanted to come up here and enjoy this nice scene, this is on the top of this little incline right here. So our picnic table would just be on a small climb. So we're talking about keeping it really small, nothing big. But if you did make it to the top, then we'd have a nice shelter where you could have family gatherings and, you know, have a larger space. This was on the very top of the trail. So once you reach the peak right here at D, that's where we're talking about placing something like that. So if you wanted to have, like I said, a birthday party, family function, it could be a destination for you to go, and it has a nice view on top of the mesa, as you could see over here. So we're talking about having that picnic table. The very first sign we came on, we were talking about putting an interpretive sign overlooking this path right here. Now, the other day when we had our meeting, we were talking about developing a parking lot 3, because the parking lot 3 area connected to this lower loop down here, which we found out that is used for cross country and people running. It's really a low impact type of loop trail on the bottom, but it's also historic because they used to have a coal mine right here in this, where this rock is. And they used to actually extract coal and then take it straight directly to the boarding school. So on this overlook, we're talking about having a nice augmented reality sign that really highlighted where the mine was, talked about the history and what it served. So this was our first interpretive sign point. Going a little bit further, this is terrible, but there's a bench under one of the trees. We're talking about it just past the 1 mile mark. If you go back to the original trail, it's past these, it's at H right here. So I did skip over these, which I'm gonna get to soon. But we're talking about having a little bench there. It's just past the 1 mile mark. It's in a nice contemplative space underneath this tree. Some people already stacked some rocks, so that's where they're staying anyways. But we're talking about putting a bench in that area. So F is the blind spot. If I go back to the very beginning, sorry if I'm making you sick, past the interpretive sign, about halfway up, there's a blind spot that Josh talked about almost getting hit because he had his earphones in, and it's really where 2 things converge. The walking trail, which you'll see here, and then there's a biking trail off to the side. So if you're walking around this bend, you don't see either of those coming. So if somebody's zooming down on a bike, there's a good chance you might get hit. So we're talking about, you know, identifying sites like that, where we would put up signs that say, watch for bikers, keep left, you know, stay on the left side of the trail. But then also having little motivational things, you know, keep it up. You've burned off that Snickers bar, keep going, something like that. You're at the 1 mile mark. We're talking about having that type of signage for these types of areas. But this is an important part just because where we're talking about the very loop that goes all the way around the rim of the mesa that starts at the very end of TP, you know, this is where it comes out. So maybe even having another sign right here saying bike trail to the right, look out, stay left, things like that. But this is kind of warning for that area. I had mentioned this site right here, G. If you go back and if you ever go on TP, you know, look out for these little areas because a community member, he's been making all of these bike jumps and bike ramps. You'll see it right here. Let me zoom in for you guys. Right here. So off to the side, I started it on the side of the trail. It actually starts back here, which gives you a running start. Then you're able to jump the trail and then go on that bike route. So I was talking about even having little signs or designations there that talked about that. So if we wanted to have an interpretive sign or an informational sign at this point, because there's 3 different levels of if you're going to be a mountain biker, this is kind of the intermediate. This is like the advanced. If you've ever been skiing, we could do something like this is a black diamond trail. This is the blue school marm. You know, this would be an opportunity where we could put up signs identifying this little trail because it has a lot of cool banks, jumps. It even has a little bridge that you go over. So it's kind of like a skills test type of thing. So we're talking about identifying those types of opportunities along the trail as well. Which is right there. I don't got a sign in, but, you know, making note of that. And then we had another interpretive sign. We have the ancient Hogan right here. So being able to identify it, put up signs like this one right here, another augmented reality one. So if you wanted to, you know, eventually see what that Hogan might have looked like back in, you know, 1800, 1880, whenever it might have been constructed. You could get out your phone and then, you know, scan it, and then maybe a hologram comes up and then you see what it would look like. But within your phone, you're also learning about, you know, the historic impact of the site, maybe as line of sight to Chaco Canyon or Kia'ani Tower off to the side, but making recognition again with that interpretive signs where we could incorporate the technology and learn about the area. And then further down where our track veers, this is the way we want to guide people, but we wanted to leave the option open of having this single person trail here off to the side, which is, you know, a little bit more narrow, but gets you to the point faster. This one leads to a contemplative space. So within our signage, we want to be able to talk about, you know, this leads to the contemplative space. This is a half-mile loop, whereas this one's maybe a quarter-mile loop. Again, just using that as direction. We're talking about putting up a sign because you do have a good look over this canyon down here, and it's a good resting point. This is on the back end, so when you're coming back, again, that same function. So from one end where the trails diverge right here, this is where they come together again. So this is just kind of going around this hill, keeping that same concept. And then further down, this is at the bottom of that trail. Here's the bike path where it starts. They actually got a cool little hill right here. So it seems like people start over here and then come down and then make a running start at this trail right here. So you could even have a nice little plaque here or something, say this is, you know, get your thrills, start here, and then point down towards the trail. But here's where I talk about the mountain bike trail, 2.5-mile loop, experienced riders only, you know, making those type of disclaimers, or stay right for Totachini Trail, which is down over here. And then again, this is where the land changes, having a sign that says BML land ahead, unmaintained trail, you know, have all those types of things, and then having a bench with that lookout again. But that was TP Trail. Did anybody have any questions or comments on that one?
Hey, Daniel. Yesterday, I went to Baglavato, which is like west of Shiprock, and Navajo Yes project. They have built some really nice trails out there with Tom Riggenbach's crew, and at some of their sites, they have grills, and I think like for people to cook on, and it might some of those grills set up near like some of your picnic sites or where you have that picnic table with the shade covering.
Oh yeah.
You're going in and out, Sheldon.
Yeah,
Can't
Sheldon.
hear you.
Kind of like you're in outer space.
I thought that was pretty cool and pretty. Hey, sorry.
Okay, hear you now. What I did here was the suggestion of grills and developing like those areas with. Okay, I think you're typing it in. Okay, yeah, I think grills near the picnic area would be good. A big part of that was if we're talking about having a lot of that activity up there, also having things like trash. So if we're gonna make those suggestions, I think a big part of it is coming up with who's gonna volunteer and maintain them. So if that's the summer youth programs that we work towards, or you know, using different clubs from the high schools, the college, etc. I for sure think that would be a good idea, because they said, you know, Leonard said when they were young, they used to have picnic tables up there too. So it'd be nice to continue that. Did anybody else have anything else?
No, I think that's a good idea, and I think grills would encourage more people to get out,
Mm-hmm.
even if there might not be like full blown hiking or whatever. They can get out and get, some.
I think that was kind of one of the intents of having it really early on too, is that, you don't have to go too far with it. So it'd be nice to have them at both in case, there's, again, like I said, there's different levels. If you don't want to make that big steep climb up that mesa, then you could just stay down here and have it too. But this could be full blown out. I just showed one overhead, but there's a lot of opportunities to place them on both sides of the track too. So it's very possible.
How many miles is this trail?
It was 4.38 if you were to do the loop. So it's about 2.1 going towards this point up here, and then 2 point whatever back. It might be more if you go actually all the way up to the teepee, but that's what one of our community members tracked in the Avenza app. So I know even if these bike trails aren't used, maybe it's dual bike trail and then encouraged to be maybe a single walker, because I walked it twice and I was able to comfortably walk on it, and they even had little paths on side of the jumps that he had. But this extended it a little bit further. So again, if we wanted to have different levels of activity, you could have, the 4.2 going there and back. But if you wanted to extend it, go back on this trail right here. So yeah, that's
Thank you.
Yes.
This is Leonard.
Hey, Leonard.
The boundary line, I think it's Navajo Trust and Executive Order line. Let me double check, and then let me see where exactly the line is, and I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you guys, because we need to make sure exactly where that line is.
Okay. I think maybe even if we have like a little side meeting, like on Friday or next week, Leonard, because I want to be able to distinguish it on all of our trails. But I know this one crosses 3 different ones, so it'd be important to get it on here for sure.
Yeah, I think we need to be accurate on that.
Right. And that was part of our strategy too. So if we figured out, say the divide was like right here, then right here, and then right here, then we were talking about, taking in sections, maybe just developing the parking lot first. And then once we get that in place, developing it up to the second land barrier. And then as we get, investment and people buying into it, then we could go all the way down to BLM and then beyond. But yeah, that's a very important part, Leonard, and something we need to identify. Anything else on this one? Okay. Well, I didn't do Kia'ani Trail, and I didn't do the connectors yet. It kind of took a little bit longer than I expected, but before Friday, before tomorrow, I'll have both of them in email, and then you'll have be able to give me some more input. But my idea is, and while the idea overall is eventually we want to be able to post these around town, maybe even have a board up at different parts of the trail where we'll have our, overall trail identified. And it'd be nice if even we had mileage and, all of the things we've been asking, at least to identify on the map itself, but then have all of these sprouting out from it so people could see the gateway with the rules and regulations, where they could see where interventions need to take place, where they could visualize the picnic table with the grill off to the side. And in doing so, we'll allow feedback from the community to, give their last input in saying, this is right, this is wrong, this is what you're forgetting. But the intent is really to use this as the next step towards approaching the community, not only for their approval, but then also what we have here on the agenda, which is reaching out to these individuals right here. So we're right on time, 3:40. If nobody has any other questions on the renderings or the summary that we went over, I think the next step is once I have it ready, and I wanted to have it ready by today, but maybe we could push it off. How we're saying that in 2 weeks, where we'd be able to reach out to these individuals. By next Thursday, I should have the packet ready with all this stuff in there. But we need to go out there and reach out to these individuals and start letting them know what we're intending to do with the trails and how can we layer our resources. So we were talking about within the first trail that Attila documented, reaching out to OID. So we're going to need somebody to reach out to Jimmy Toledo. And then for the education trail, it's going to be NTU and Dene College territory. So we're going to need somebody to reach out to Joanna Salago, who I believe is the site director, who can then reach out to Monty Russell and then Dr. Guy. And then I know Lester Sosi's already been in support of this, but since we went over the BIA area as well, we're going to need to show these all to him, some mock-ups, and then get his approval. And then for all of the crosswalks, Attila's already been in contact with some funders, and they said it'd be best to work with we have to work with Larry Joe of Navajo DOT. And then if we're talking about how I was saying, further developing that BIA area, this was Attila's point of contact with UNM, but I know that Sheldon and Latasha had contacts as well. So if it's Ted Hohola we get in contact with, these are the individuals we need to reach out to next to start begin collaborating.
Daniel.
Yes.
Special Diabetes was moving in, and it looks like they're going to be set up pretty soon. So we may have to include them because they wanted to work on some programs to work with the community. I think Sylvia Billy was the point person that we need to work with. But Special Diabetes was moving in, according to the email I was reading.
Cool. Yeah, we could add them to the list.
Daniel,
Yes.
I think I can reach out to the planning group, the architecture and planning group at UNM.
Okay.
So I know Dr. Crawford and Moises and the other individuals like Ted and other folks like that. So I can send an email hopefully by the end of the week to get them in touch.
Yeah, that'd be great if we could just make initial contact by the end of the week, and then by next week when I have the packet ready, have that ready to show them for more information. So if this week we could at least just say, hi, we're from the Crown Point Community Watch and Awareness Group or the UNM chapter NPS project. We want to be able to talk to you about our project. Make that first initial contact, and then next week we could send out the packet that has all of this stuff detailed out with them.
Okay.
Leonard, would you be able to contact Jimmy Toledo and Lester?
Daniel, this is Sheldon. I can reach out to Dene College.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. And whether that's through the main campus or through Joanna, because she's from the Crown Point, that would be fine.
Yeah, there's Joanna, and then there's Peggy Willeto.
Okay. Yeah, Peggy's the one who really runs it, huh?
Yeah, Peggy's the chairperson there, chairwoman.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to contact them because their gate got closed off, so we need to figure out a way to link with them. And we're talking about that parking area for the main gateway. We're gonna have to coordinate with them on putting something up as well. Okay, I'll contact Dr. Guy and Jimmy Toledo. I'm gonna leave Lester with Leonard. They seem like buddies. And then Larry Joe, that's Attila. So like I said, if this week we could just reach out to them and then just let them know that we want to have a conversation with them. Can we have a call, a Zoom, whatever it might be? And then by next week, when I have all of these renderings ready, we'll have a little booklet that we could show them that has all of the concepts put together.
Daniel,
Yes.
pertaining to that proposal, we should have the chapter resolution, supporting resolution by the 15th. Is Dr. Guy available so we can discuss maybe a support letter from NTU and maybe Mr. Arvizo too?
Is that for the museum or for the trails?
Yeah, for the museum.
We're supposed to talk about it on Monday, but they got caught up. But I know that Dr. Guy said it's an interesting project. What I'll probably have to do is write a letter of support for him, and then he just has to sign off. So I'll approach him again.
Well, I can write to you and then you can forward that to Dr. Guy and that will help out.
Even better.
Okay.
Cool. Are there any other questions or concerns? Leonard, did you get to see this whole rendering right here? I didn't hear you on the first half.
No, I'm not at my home. I'm out here in the boonies. So.
Okay. Well, I'll email out these renderings again, and then at least these ones today, and then hopefully by tomorrow I'll finish it up the education trail and then the Mesa trail and the connectors, and then that way we'll have all of the renderings ready. And then if you guys have any comments or questions, at least until next Thursday, email me back with what your suggestions would be. And then I can make that booklet by next Thursday in time for us to make that second round of contact with who we identified. But, you know, this is looking really good to me. It seems like all of this stuff came from feedback, not only from, you know, our walking sessions, but our focus groups and our surveys too. So if we can include parks and layer our work with this, I think it just makes our overall plan stronger and gives us things to work towards. So. Any other questions or comments?
Not me.
Well, I'll send out another email for next week. We'll meet again next Thursday if it's okay with you guys. Does anybody have any objections to that?
No.
I won't be able to make it next Thursday, but I'll keep in contact with the emails.
Okay. And like I said, Christina, if you have any other suggestions or comments on what could go there or what needs to be in place, just email them to me and then I can make those changes by Thursday.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, cool. So we'll do the trails next Thursday at 3 p.m. by Zoom. That's all.
Daniel,
Yes.
I have a quick question. I know that Attila had sent an email to the UNM group last week. Did he hear back from them, or what's going on with that?
He sent a message, and the person who I had put on the agenda, what was her name?
Crawford?
Yeah, her. She had mentioned that a lot of the instructors already have their studios or their projects set for the spring.
Yeah.
But I was mentioning that, you know, this could be a summer project. This could be something for the fall. Since we take some time, we might just focus on signage at first. If it could be used in any capacity, whether it's a studio, a capstone, or if IDPI or RAZA want to take it on as a project itself, we're open to all options.
Okay. All right. And just letting you know that I think most of them are going on the winter break too. So it may take a while for them to respond to any of our emails.
That's okay. As long as like
Okay.
no contact, but
Okay. Sounds good.
So Daniel, these people we're reaching out to for their outreach. Do you want us to invite them to our meeting next Thursday, or is it just to let them know about the project?
At least initially let them know about the project. So just kind of making that initial contact, putting it on their radar.
Okay.
Next week, we'll be meeting as a group again, just kind of finalizing the little booklet I put together based on all this feedback, based on the renderings. And then I think it'd be a good idea if maybe that week, next meeting after that, on the 20th, actually that's a holiday. So maybe the first week of January, after New Year's, we have a set meeting where we could bring all these guys down and even do something like that. That might be a good option too, rather than reaching out to them individually, is getting them to the table right now. So what does the group think?
I think that sounds good. I think January is good.
Okay. So in reaching out to those individuals, we'll just say that, make the initial contact, and then we're going to send you more information with our packet. And then can you meet with us the first week of January, maybe the 2nd, and then actually have a sit down where we discuss what needs to take place.
Okay.
Is there anything else? Caitlin, Leonard?
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you get in touch with Mark Freeland?
No. Can you help
I'll
out?
try to get in touch.
Okay. Yeah, we'll add him to the list too.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else?
Daniel,
Yes.
I think Mark Freeland is going to be a real good resource. So we need to include him for sure. Maybe update him, just send him some materials of what we've done so far.
Okay. Yeah, we'll put him on the list too. Mayor Mary will reach out to him. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. Hope you guys are being safe. Have a good evening, and we'll see you guys next Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Daniel, it's actually Superstar Mary.
Whatever, Mary. Superstars have their video on. Where's your video?
I don't have a cool background.
Well, take care.
Did you get the ad?
Yeah, I got it in. So it's probably on the it's probably running on TV right now, so look out for it.
Okay. If you need any help, I'll be able to help.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Talk
Have
to
a
you
good evening.
You too. Peace.